161st Street, Yankee Stadium.
Swung on, hit in the air, Denise center, gets back, away back, she is gone!
All right. Welcome back to the Boys of 161st Street, episode 240. Who gives a fuck? Aaron Judge is the Yankee for 9 more years. Aaron Judge will be on the Yankees for the rest of his career. Yankee for life. 9 years, $360 million. Immediate reactions. We're going to dive into that whole fiasco with Arson Judge and John Heyman and everything that was going wrong and us not having Judge for like a night. We thought we didn't have Judge for a night when we went to bed, and we woke up and Aaron Judge was a Yankee, or will be a Yankee for 9 more years. But immediate reactions to us signing Judge. Obviously, we're gonna, other than Judge, it's going to be mainly about the Judge situation. But you know, Cashman back for 4 years, Canely also on the Yankees and the rest of the free agency landscape. But immediate reactions to Judge, fellas.
Thank fucking God.
Yeah, that's mine. I thought I would be able to get over it, and then I saw what my life was like for like 12 hours without it. Like, even the most pessimistic people, myself included, there was still like, I never really believed it until yesterday. And I tried to drown myself in frozen pizza and boxed wine and see what would happen. So it was a pretty sad night for me. Woke up this morning, that was all good. So a lot of relief, but now we're exactly where we were 1 year ago, minus another starter. So go finish the job.
No, yeah, that's a good point. But it seems like the floodgates are open now. Like that we said in the beginning of the offseason that everything after Judge is going to matter, because the first thing and the only thing you're worried about is bringing Judge back. Thankfully for us, it was in 2022 and not after New Year's and like stretched out into opening day. So now that it's at the winter meetings and there's still, well, today's the last day, but you know, there's still time to figure the rest out, and there's still some good options on the board. And I feel like they're at this point, you have to buy in with it while he's good and while he's worth 40 million, because he's not going to be worth 40 million for the rest of the contract.
No, and that's a good point too, because I think you made an interesting point, Chandler, is that, you know, it sounds like, or feels like we landed this big fish, but it's not how it would have been if the Giants had got him, because you're adding 11 WAR to a team that previously won 81 games. So essentially you can say that they're now better by 11 games, but we're actually down a starter in Benintendi, however you want to. Is that who you're talking about? Benintendi being the starter that we're still down?
Tyone, but
okay, because Benintendi, I mean, he didn't really do much for the team last year, but it is interesting because we are celebrating this, but like we've talked about for the last year and the year before that, is kind of just running it back in the saying that all of the listeners know that we keep saying is, what's the definition of insanity? It's running the same thing back and expecting different results. And that's, if we don't do anything else right now, we're going to celebrate this today because we didn't think we were going to have him on our team, and I'm happy that we do. But there does need to be more moves to be made, and it sounds like we're still in on Rodon. It sounds, by the time we're recording this, is Wednesday night, December 7th. So, I mean, there definitely needs to be more moves to be had. I think Rodon would be a fine one. We'll get into the free agency landscape and the next moves, but I think they're pushing right up against the salary cap, and it seems to me like Hal on his boat in Italy taking calls on his vacation just with Aaron Judge. It sounds like he doesn't really have an issue spending some money right now, and he seemed like he was potentially channeling his late father last night with the call to Judge. We'll get into all that in a second, but I do think there's going to be more moves to be made. But I think that's because there has to be. The first thing, I guess, let's just go into the whole.
Real quick on how.
Yeah.
Do you think the booing actually got to him?
I was going to get into that. I do think. Okay. I think this move in general had more to do with how the Yankees organization was scared the Yankees fans would react to Judge not being on the team. And I think when push comes to shove, because I personally would not have reacted, and I consider myself one of the more rational Yankees fans. There's not a lot of us out there, but like Yankees fans, the whole next season, I could see a world where the team just gets booed because of the way the front office handled this situation. If they had been outbid by 20, 30, 40 million, I don't think there's a realistic number that we would have been okay with it. Like, if backtrack back to the beginning of the season when we offered him 213.5 million, all of us said that was a fair deal. All because obviously he didn't have a MVP and break record season, but in hindsight now, after that, time and time again proving himself to be the guy that he is in the media, and obviously he can handle himself in a fucking free agency period. We'll talk about that in a second, but everything I think was the right buttons were pressed every single time. But to go to your question, I do think that I think it started with Hal. I think Hal evidently had the final say. I don't think this is a contract that Cashman was comfortable giving out. And I think we're going to look at this contract and be like, oh yeah, probably not the best one. Probably going to get 5 good years out of it and spend $40 million a year down the stretch in the back 4 years. But that's okay, because I think they looked at the two plans, plan A being having Judge in the team, and plan B being, like we said this before the offseason even started, we're going to spend this time trying to get Judge, and then all the while missing out on free agents that are falling through the cracks, like a Trey Turner, like all these other guys who have already gone. And I think they looked at the remaining free agents, like we'll do in a second, and they didn't think that would cut the mustard with the fans and themselves too. And I don't think they would have, like, let's say we recorded last night like we were supposed to, and Judge was in our minds not going to be like he's going to be on the Giants. We were going to look at the rest of the landscape and be like, yeah, do we just take the money we were going to throw on Judge and just give it to like Xander or Correa, or Xander and Correa, and move one to second, trade Gleyber, all that's like those stuff. I don't think any of those moves would have been enticing enough to the Yankees organization or the fans. And I think it's a combination of those two things. I think they're scared of what the fans might, or how they would have reacted to that.
I think that this is I think it shows two things. One, how incompetent Brian Cashman is. And I think two, it shows how out of touch Hal is with his own team. Because from the outside looking in, this is an investment for Hal. He doesn't give a flying fuck about the actual baseball team. So in his mind, he's giving Brian Cashman $250 million a year. And without gauging, it's not like he's refreshing Twitter like we are. Without gauging any of that, from the outside looking in, he's like, okay, yeah, I'm doing a good job. I'm giving him $250 million. I've got this general manager who's taken my team to the playoffs, pretty much every year. They've played, I think it was like 16 total games where they didn't matter. I think they've played like 16 total games in the last like 20 years where they were out of contention. Something ridiculous like that. So the outside looking in, you're like, okay, everything's going right. And then he showed his face in the stadium, and he got absolutely just booed to death. And he's like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I think it shocked him. And that's kind of the feel, is he wasn't like offended, like just at home crying, but it was like, where did I go wrong if I'm giving $250 million and everybody's pissed off?
You know what, like, I think it was?
That's kind of where I'm at.
In addition to that, like, obviously the booing got to him, but the other part of that, I think, is people drawing comparisons to George. And when, in the brief time that I thought he was gone, and I'm not talking about the 4 minutes before Heyman took his tweet away, but all night last night, I thought that he just jumped the gun and he was still going to go to San Francisco. And I was just waiting for that to come across. So for that entire time frame, I'm thinking, from Hal's perspective, how can you have the most marketable player in baseball at your biggest need, outfield, already on your roster, and you have the highest, the most money to spend, and you don't bring him back? Like, how can you do that? A generational talent. Everyone's comparing him to Jeter, going to be the captain. How do you let that guy walk with this much money when you were under the tax threshold? Like, it doesn't make sense. And then George would never have let that happen. So I think the comparisons to, like, that would have been his legacy, is letting Judge walk, no matter how good Judge was after. Judge wasn't Cano. Cano was never going to be the captain the same way. I was heartbroken when Cano left, but Cano was never going to be what Judge has been.
and will be now.
And will be now. I mean, even if he doesn't have matched the season he had last year, how could he? But either way, you had to bring him back and pull that risk. And the fact that it took Hal stepping in to do that, calling Judge on the phone to offer them the extra year. Good for him for stepping in and making sure that happened, because it would not have happened if it was only on Cashman.
Now, my question
little...
to you is, do you think that Hal called him, or do you think Judge gave the Yankees the final refusal?
Hal called Judge.
Hal called him, yeah.
Okay, you don't think that Judge gave us the final right of refusal? Like a lot of team.
I mean,
players.
In my opinion, Judge to San Francisco was basically a done deal. I think it was closer than we're all led to believe. Either that, or he's just the best fucking poker player of all time, which
I
it
think
could
he
be.
is. I think he is.
But I think there was a legitimate chance that if the Yankees didn't go that last year, that he'd be a San Francisco Giant right now.
Yeah,
But
Heyman did not make that up. He heard something that made him make that tweet. So something happened.
And I think Hal saw that, and if there's one thing he cares about, it's protecting his assets. He, like I said, he looks at this as an investment, right or wrong. Whatever you want to say about Hal Steinbrenner, I mean, I think we can go a day without bashing him based on this, but he's like, I'm losing the single most valuable part of this. Like, I need to step in. And I think,
and that's what George would have done.
The quotes that Brian Cashman gave all week of
not knowing that he's in San Diego.
He doesn't know anything. He doesn't know anything. He was like, I don't know where he stands. I don't know
if
he's coming here.
Think about your Judge.
Because he left him in the dark because
right.
And people say it on Twitter, and I don't really think it's an exaggeration that he fucking hates Brian Cashman. I think a lot of players do, which it doesn't make sense. Derek Jeter hated him. Everybody hates Brian Cashman. It does not make sense to me how he gets extended. If you can't land the most surefire slam dunk free agent since Derek Jeter, a homegrown Yankee that wants to be the Yankee that's sitting there to be your captain, then what good are you?
Not a good sign that the prior two captains, including Judge, obviously do not like the general manager. I don't think that's...
Well, that's the thing, is when they re-signed Cashman, I figured that had something to do with having Cashman signed gave us a better shot to get Judge back. But Judge kept everything so close to the vest. But one thing that is clear is that he doesn't like Cashman. The comments about how he was upset that they released the offer, that kind of thing, and then the Jeter comments after that, like, it's clear. And then the last finishing touch is that Cashman didn't even know he's in San Diego, but then Hal gets him on the phone. He tells Hal, I just need one more year. He gives him the other year for $40 million, and here we are. And he turns down $400 from San Diego, and nobody would have blamed him for that.
Crazy.
I mean, he 10 years, $40 million. Like, that's your best offer objectively, and they're a contender. That could have been a great option. I know he doesn't have ties there, but all he needed was the assurance from Hal. He needed Hal to have the good faith that Cashman didn't have.
Yeah, like we said, it doesn't sound like Cashman had any idea what was going on with any of this, and I think it was all Hal. And I think Hal, in my mind, gained a lot of respect in terms of the way that he can handle things. And honestly, it's putting things into question now. Like, was this always Cashman being terrible at his job? Should we have cut Hal some slack, and then that's why he needed to really step in this time? Or is this out of character for Hal this time around, and he just couldn't take the booze and all that stuff? I don't know, and we'll probably never find out, but
he had to step in now, whether it's because of the booze or not. I don't know if he'll step in on, say, Rodon. And I know we're going to talk about that in a second, but this is, if he wasn't going to step in now, then he's never going to step in.
Right. And I mean, just kind of like a little bit ridiculous that, you know, we didn't even talk about this, the timing of the announcement of the Cashman 4-year extension before making a single move. I mean, I guess he brought back Rizzo by that time and he was working under no contract, but like, nobody fucking cared. Like, that DeGrom and Verlander had just gone off the board, and we're like, oh, big splash. We brought back Brian Cashman for 4 years. Somebody who the fans don't like, the captains don't like, the players don't like. I don't even know if Hal likes. I mean, clearly Hal likes him. And it's just like all this crazy stuff. I know, Chandler, you said this before we brought back Judge, that Verlander going off the Astros could have been, at the end of the day, our best move, the Yankees' best move. And I don't disagree with that. I think that if Judge had left and we were just grasping at straws with the remaining free agents, I think that was probably the best.
Yeah, but Verlander was gone first.
What?
Verlander was gone first.
I know. Chandler had said that there's a legitimate chance that Verlander leaving the Astros is the best move for us. Primarily because
just because he left the Astros.
Before Judge, like, he was assuming Judge wasn't going to be on the Yankees because he's his pessimistic self. But I mean, to be fair, none of us did.
I think if there was ever a time for me or any other Yankee fan to be pessimistic, it was this. Like, all signs pointed to him going to the Giants.
But you had been
Outside of
saying
just,
this for
he
like
would never do
every
that.
day for the whole year. Like, we all thought it before the season started. Like, when he denied that, it's like, oh, kind of makes sense. The Giants are a good team. They were better than the 500 team before. For last year, they have a lot of money to spend. We knew this was going to happen, so it's not a shock. But yeah, it was very tough. I mean,
think
we haven't even talked about the
Chandler.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think if it was up to Cashman, he would be a Giant right now. I'll just say that. I don't think I'm that far off base. I think if Hal Steinbrenner doesn't step in there, and that is something nobody had on their bingo card, was him actually growing at least half a ball.
From Italy, of all places.
From Italy, then...
That makes it funnier, though. That makes it so much funnier that he's on this luxury vacation, and it's just like, I mean, clearly the dude's doing just fine. The extra, I don't know, 40 million is really hurting his pockets. I mean, if you want to talk about the bet on himself, this is now come full circle and it's concluded. That is the best bet on yourself. I don't need to refer to history for this. There's no one who's bet on themselves went better than this, let alone just free agency, because I'll count the whole beginning of the season, the negotiations before opening day, he handled everything. He pressed every perfect button, because when you look at what the offer was before to now, and who knows, the offer before, they probably negotiated to get up to the 213.5 for 7 years. So like he initially denied the 213 and then ended up at 360. That's 146.5 million extra dollars that he got himself, and an extra 2 years. And what's crazy to me too is that the Yankees, I'm glad they settled it like this, but they're kind of fucking stupid, and they're probably kicking themselves for it. And again, Hal's on a boat in Italy. He doesn't really care. But when you look at it, yeah, it's a difference of like 150 million right there. But they could have avoided that. They could have saved themselves even more than that if instead of the 213, they offered him like 280. He would have never gone to this. He would have had his MVP year under contract. Who knows if that would happen? String theory or whatever. If they went up to 280 before opening day and avoided this whole thing, in reality, they saved themselves $80 million. The difference between 360 and that I agree with. And, hindsight's 2020. Like, who could have guessed that he would have broke the record? But like, it's crazy how much money he made on top of what he was offered.
If he got 280 at the beginning of the year, I would have called it a bad deal. Right.
No, that's what I said. Here's where I'm at with it, because
he won.
I'm totally fine with not offering him more. He bet on himself and he won. It's nobody's fault. Good on him. The thing that pisses me off is, and what I think shot down negotiations and actually made this a competition with another team, was making it public and airing it out against his wishes. It's exactly what Judge said. It's a shady bargaining tactic, and that doesn't work. Like, not everybody. Aaron Judge is the closest thing we've had to Derek Jeter since Derek Jeter, but not everybody's Derek Jeter. It doesn't matter how good you are on the field, with the media, anything. Derek Jeter's team growing up was the Yankees. He loved the Yankees. He wanted to be a Yankee. He built a dynasty with the Yankees. He won 4 or 5 World Series with the Yankees by this point. That it's different. He knew he wanted to be a Yankee. Aaron Judge, not so much. Like
he took less to be here, so I think he does.
And he hasn't even made it to a World Series. By that time, Jeter had won 4.
He does, but you get what I'm saying. Like, Jeter went to the front office, and I'm not even speaking to the other teams. Treat me fair. And Cashman still aired it out and said, "You know what? Fuck you, dude. Go shop around and see what you can get." He's like, "I'm really not. I don't want to even give the impression." Like, Aaron Judge played it perfectly. Who knows if he actually had intentions to leave or not?
He clearly did.
Nobody knows but him. But
I think he did have intentions to leave, but he knew at the end of he knew the Yankees would be close enough that he wouldn't have to leave. So I don't think he ever wanted to go anywhere.
He put the ball in their court. He knew he, like we said, bet on himself. He gets to the offseason. He knew that if the Yankees gave him the offer that he was looking for, he would take it. And it took Hal stepping in to get that offer. Because he could, if he was in it for the money, or if he was in it for the years and the longevity, he would be in San Diego.
Yeah,
It's the bottom line. And
can't
I don't know
believe
what
they
the
gave
final
him
offer is like.
400 million, 10
He
years
clearly
was the final offer.
wanted to be a Yankee, and Cashman almost kicked it. They had every advantage, every opportunity, everything. And it took Hal stepping in at the final second and a John Heyman boof to get us there. Because Chandler, I want to bring a little point to your tin hat theory that actually made sense. Is that we say, oh, they're not looking at like Yankees Twitter to figure out whatever, but there was a legitimate 5 minutes where we thought he was gone, and for the rest of the evening, most people really were operating under the assumption that he was gone. And you see the reaction. And maybe Cashman doesn't care about that, but Hal probably does. I'm sure Hal has somebody looking at to see the reaction, because whether the Yankees constituted that fuck up or not, they got the reaction of what would happen if Judge leaves.
It was like the greatest martyr moment of all time. And if it is that, I doubt it was. Like, look, John Heyman, say what you want, he's kind of a cuck, but the dude's been in this game for quite some time. He's got solid sources. He probably heard something. And, the buzz, it wasn't just him. There's buzz all in the lobby, apparently, for multiple sources that he was going there. The players, the coaches, all kind of, I mean, shit, you could watch Gabe Kepler, whatever the fuck his name is. I watched the winter meetings the entire day yesterday, from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed. Watch his interview, and people don't talk like that aren't confident. Like, I know they didn't end up with him, and I know that apparently nobody knew anything, but you don't see, when they interview the Red Sox guys and they talk about Xander Bogaerts, they don't talk like that. It's like we wish we could have him. We love him. He's a great guy. There was like a sense of arrogance about, not arrogance, but like, there's a way you talk when you're excited about something, and there's a realistic shot of it coming true. And I think that John Heyman, or as Damon, who's not here tonight, would call him John Hyman, I think that there was a realistic chance, and that the belief was that. I think John Heyman definitely jumped the gun. But look, if theory is actually true, then that is one of the best publicity / botch jobs, whatever you want to call it, ever. Because if nothing else, it showed the panic in that fan base, and it showed the panic to that front office, other than Brian Cashman, who apparently doesn't look at fucking anything or know anything about managing a team, like what the fallout would be.
So what are your tinfoil hat is suggesting what? That
Heyman leaked that intentionally to wake up, to put some sense of desperation in the front office. Like, Judge's camp was like, look, leak this, and for whatever reason,
to get him to come up, because he wants to go to New York, but he wants to make his money.
So you're saying that they told Heyman to ruin his credibility? Do you think they slipped him some of the cash?
There's no way this actually happened.
That would be cool.
But the result, whether it was intentional or not, the result was the same, because it did. Like, if he didn't make that mistake, does Cashman still get on the phone?
Hal, you mean?
Hal? I don't know.
I don't think so.
Because I really do think that there's a realistic possibility that even if he didn't see it directly, somebody got a hold of Hal saying, this happened, and everyone's freaking out. So he knew the reaction of the fan base when they thought he was gone. And whether that gave him a kick in the ass to get on the phone with Judge, I don't know. But at least it definitely played some sort of a factor.
Well, he had already been having conversations with
the chain
Judge
reaction.
directly.
The comments were, the Yankees didn't really know, but they spent the entire rest of the night frenzied, or they were in a panic, or Aaron Boone was in the shower and he got the message. He was like, "Yeah, I called Cashman immediately after." He was like, "No, I don't know anything." And we're like,
Cashman's not the guy to call. Clearly, he's been sleeping at the outside in the in the fucking sleeping bag, whatever he does.
He's been doing the fucking elf rappel down the side of skyscrapers. But no, I mean, Aaron Boone. Say what you want about Aaron Boone's in-game decision making, but the players love him. And the reports come out today that, when Aaron Boone found out about all this, he called him late last night and just like had a heart-to-heart with him. Was like, "Look, man, like, this is what you mean to me. This is what you mean to everybody here. Like, I respect your decision, but you know what? Like, we all love you." Like, does that happen if this doesn't leak? I don't know. Like,
I don't think
he's
so.
probably not. He's not meddling in his business at this point. It's his story the entire offseason is, I don't. I hope he's here. I stay in contact with him about how him and his family are doing, and that's about it. But does he make that call of, look, we like, it's almost like a last ditch effort?
I think he
"We
might.
really
I
love
think
you
he
here.
might.
Please don't."
I choose to believe the tinfoil hat theory. I think someone in Judge's camp, I think Judge directly, well, we'll just use him, but I think it's someone in Judge's camp, his agent or whatever, probably his agent told Heyman, said, hey, we'll give you a slice of the increase that this frenzy causes if you do send this tweet. And then, I mean, that's a pretty big slice. It went up from 360 to, no, it went up from 320 to 360, right? So, you know, I mean, it could have potentially gone up to 400. So I think they could have given him, like, we'll give you 1% of whatever it ends up going up to from the current offer on the table. And I think Heyman just was like, yeah, you know what? That sounds good to me. I'll use another house in the Hamptons. Like, I choose to believe that.
Yeah.
Or,
I mean,
or it could be just a senile reporter fucking up. I choose option A. I think it's more fun.
I don't know.
I did notice
I wonder if CC Sabathia being there had anything to do with it. Although, also, shout out to all the people on Twitter that were on the private flight trackers. I don't think that anybody's ever been right before, but they were actually right. It was him. So
that was they had. I didn't hear about that. They had Judge's flight to San Diego.
Yeah, well, they'd been. There's one private flight, and the reports were that he may be going to San Diego. He may not. There was one private plane chartered from Tampa to San Diego yesterday.
And people knew he was in Tampa from the game.
Yeah, and people were tracking it all morning, and they're like, "Oh, like the Judge is arriving and everything. Like this can't be good for the Yankees." But they were right; he was on the fucking plane. So
did they have a name, or they just saw the one chartered flight from where he was from his Instagram picture to the winter meetings that were like,
yeah, it was the only private jet.
Diego.
They're like, it's either Hal or Judge or both, and they're like,
or it could be just anybody coming from Tampa to San Diego, and Judge is just sitting in Tampa.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Murph, I know you'll respect
coach.
this as a college football fan, but every time there's a head coaching vacancy in college football, maybe not for you because you're an Alabama fan, but for the rest of us that have poverty teams, every time there's a head coach vacancy, every person on the fucking internet's tracking every flight across the country.
I've never heard
this
that.
is the first time I've ever seen one be right. I can't believe they were right. That's all I know. And the fact that he was going there just to meet with
the Padres. Yeah, that, and then they offered him 10 years, $400 million. Like the I feel bad for three people. Us last night for the night. We went to bed sad. Two, the Padres have been offering some money to people, and no one has accepted their offers. And they offered Turner $347, was it? He accepted $300. They offered him an extra $47 there. He said no. They offered Judge an extra $40 million. He said no. Nobody wants to play in San Diego, I guess, and I don't know what it is. San Diego's pretty fucking beautiful, but
it's mainly just because Judge wanted to be a Yankee and
Turner wanted to be a Philly.
Well, he just wanted to be on the East Coast in general, so
and
I don't think
it's
it's necessarily
Harper.
Could you imagine Judge and Soto in the same outfield, but it wasn't on the Yankees? Like, imagine right before the deadline.
That's crazy.
Before the deadline, someone tells you opening day next year. Keep in mind, Soto's still on the Nationals at this point. Opening day next year, Judge and Soto are in the same outfield. What team is that for? Where would the Padres be on that list? Very low. Like, I mean, probably top 15 realistically, but
I mean, that's half the league.
Right. That's what I'm saying. No, but like, I mean,
your point taken. We
would
have assumed, you could say Dodgers. Obviously Yankees would be number one on that, but you could say Dodgers. You could say San Francisco. You could say a lot of other teams before you get to the Padres. Yeah, the whole situation last night was crazy, and I have a friend at work. Shout out Tyler. He is a Giants fan, and we were chatting back and forth just on Teams, like just sending reports back and forth. And he had us for a second there. Like he sounded like he had the last laugh. I went to bed. He lives in California, so he has a different time zone. I sent him a chat in the morning because I woke up already, and he's 3 hours behind, so he had still been asleep. I was like, you are going to be very upset when you wake up because he went to bed definitely thinking that Judge was going to be a Yankee. And when I woke up, because the news broke at like 8:30, which is like 5:30 their time, he was not up. So I gave him the news. He saw a Teams message or gets a Teams notification. He just responded back and said pain. Like that.
I was able to break the news in a positive light today to one of my buddies at work. His name is Joe, and he sends me like a Slack message this morning. Like, oh, glad to see they got Canley. Hopefully Judge signs today. And it was, at like 8:45. I guess he just hadn't like gotten the news yet. So I was able to go back to him and be like, oh, actually Judge just signed. And obviously was very excited. That was a good little moment. Dude, you don't get to break news to people directly that very much anymore. It's
no.
No, I mean, especially that early in the day too, because it's funny. John Morosi, I don't know if you guys saw this. The only reason he was up to break that news is because it was his wife's birthday, and he was up trying to get a surprise together for her. And was like, he's out there in San Diego. He's like, what the fuck at 4:30 a.m. Here we go.
Yeah, when you said 5:00 bomb, I like in our group chat this morning, Chandler, I get a text at 8:20, just boner alert, and I was like, oh, that means something good. And then he says, nice 5 a.m. bomb. And just no context. And I went on Twitter and still hadn't seen anything because this was before or right as Rosenthal was tweeting it, I guess. And that was.
But when he says, you knew, like when he says boner alert, that's not a.
No, I knew it was something. But Chandler, if you said directly that Judge signed, that you would have broken the news to me.
I broke the alternative would have been because everybody's getting ready for work, and then I was still. Like my work day doesn't technically start till 10:30, so I was kind of dicking off, like watching TikToks, and I saw like just my normal Twitter scroll in the morning. I was like, "Whoa, that's cool."
See, I had already had my normal Twitter scroll and missed that. That's interesting. Because I started at 8, I'd already been up and at him and missed it.
So,
dude, I don't know. This is the happiest that we've been since Cole, right? Hands down.
Yeah. I think happier.
I mean, it's happier.
I think it's happier because the opposite side of this would have been more detrimental to the team. I genuinely believe, like, what does this team look like going forward if we miss out on Judge? I think we're sitting here having this podcast talking about potentially rebuilding or at least retooling heavily. Like the decision of Judge to come back to the Yankees change the dynamic of this team for the next 4 years. And don't shake your head. No, I know.
No. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying that we would have been having, no matter who we could sign 3 of the top 4 free agents that are left, and we are still not.
You lose your identity. You lose your identity if you lose Judge. You don't lose a player. You lose, and it sounds corny as fuck, but it's true. Like, we have not had a player like this since 2014, and even then, we all knew it was coming. We haven't had a player at this point in his career this exciting in damn near 20 years. Like, anybody who's probably the majority of people listening to this show, all of us, all 3 and plus Damon, all of the people we associate ourselves with on a day-to-day basis, we've not had this version of a player. We were all so young when Jeter hit this point and when he hit his prime and everything. Like, we haven't had that star power ever. Losing him would have been crushing. And everybody in the locker room, and everybody in the locker room loves him. Like, you listen to Nestor Cortez talk, and I know he's kind of like just a meme at this point, but he's like, yeah, we all look up to him. He is our captain. We do everything he says. We listen to what he wants to listen to. Whenever things go bad, he talks to us. When things are good, he talks to us. Like, he is our captain. You lose that guy, I'm sorry. Bringing in Correa and Rodon and Nimmo or whatever other combo of players, it doesn't replace that.
No, right. And I think they would have panic bought people. I think they would have overpaid people. I think they would have brought in people that don't fit the build or the mold that they always like to talk about, the classic Yankee mold, and nobody fits it better than Judge. Like, they would have probably overpaid Correa. They would have overpaid Xander Bogaerts. As much as I like those players and they're great players, there is a fucking 6'7" sized hole in this roster, and it's a lot bigger than that because he just he embodies everything that a captain of the Yankees should be. And that begs the question is, like, I mean, John Heyman talked about it already. I mean, he's obviously skating on thin ice right now in terms of the credibility. I mean, actually, no, not really, because he was obviously paid. So if the tinfoil hat is correct, then I'm buying into this John Heyman quote that he said that it's all but, what was the exact quote? It's all but final that this year he'll be named the captain or something like that. It's,
I mean,
it's,
yeah,
it's fairly
we know
obvious
he's
that he
gonna be
will
captain,
be.
I
I
think it
mean,
was
he,
Bob Nightingale. Honestly, that was like
it was Bob
he's-
Nightingale.
which also he's
Those are
less credible
synonymous,
than John
apparently,
Heyman
yeah.
right now. Yeah, so.
I saw that from Bob Nightingale. I was like, that might as well have been from somebody with 3 followers. Like,
so do you
Well,
think?
I
But
mean,
I-
we're gonna
I mean,
have
it
to
was-
wait. Hal's in Italy, and the only person who can name him. They asked Cashman about it. He was like, "That's a decision for Hal."
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's inevitable.
It's going to
at
be
this
before
point.
opening day. We all know that's going to happen.
it's gonna be at his press conference whenever they,
But the fact that, like, so yesterday when we thought he was gone, we were talking about the best next step is signing the best player available, which would have been Correa. And I don't like Correa. He's a good ball player. I don't want him on the Yankees. And now I'm relieved that that's not going to be an option.
You're
I mean,
so
if they
full
go
of
sign
shit.
him now,
Last
I'm
night,
not
you
full of
literally
shit. Whoa,
were-
you
what
didn't
if
let
I
me
had-
finish.
You said
This is what I was going to get to. I said, what if I told you 2 years ago that we signed Correa to replace Judge and we're
You
happy
didn't say
about
to
it?
replace Judge. You did not.
All
say
right,
to
we
replace
signed
Judge.
Correa and we're happy about it. That would have been on the contingency that Judge is gone. So I would have been
here's
happy
where
about
I'm
it from the
at.
standpoint of, okay, at least we got somebody competent in free agency. But like, I don't want to pretend that I like Correa.
Here's
And
where
now
I'm
I don't have
I
to.
hate Carlos Correa. I do. But I think there's some legitimacy to what Luke brought to the table last year. And I guess we could use this. We've been beating the Judge drum for an hour, and I could do it for 2 more hours. I love the fucking guy. I'm so glad he's back. But to Luke, I think there's some legitimacy to what Luke was saying last year when he was a free agent the first time, that he kind of fits that super villain just mold, kind of and he's baseball smart. Like, he's not just this uber talented guy and that's it, and he just was associated with a bad team. He knew what he was doing. Like, I don't know. I hate him. I hate the Astros. I hate everything. He's a baseball genius. He's fucking incredible at baseball. He fits that supervillain mold. You're going out there and you're dishing out $360 million contracts. You know what? Go fucking sign a Correa. I don't care that you got Judge. They're not going to, but if they did and they went for the jugular here, I think he fits the bill perfect. And I think that the Yankees would get over it. I think the players would get over it. I think enough time has passed and enough of them want to win.
I agree.
And I think that beyond that, I think they respect his baseball intelligence. Listen to him talk on the broadcast. Again, I cannot fucking stand Carlos Correa. He is my least favorite player in the entire game. But listen to him talk when they have him on broadcast in the World Series, which is weird that he's not in it, but you get what I'm saying. He's very knowledgeable. He knows what he's talking about. He's a student of the game. He's Garrett Cole level technical with his craft. That's a massive, massive add to a team that desperately needs a shortstop, that desperately needs something. They're missing something. They've been missing something. They don't have that it factor, and bringing back Judge doesn't give that to you. Signing a guy like Carlos Correa does. And I hate that I'm saying that.
I feel like the fits the evil empire thing is not really the case, because you're looking at the faces of this team and none of them are the bad boys. You want to talk about like the Mavericks, the controversial, that he's more of a Donaldson than he is a Judge in that sense.
There are faces on the team. I think he was that, and he was that out in the light because he needed to be the face, and that's the one that would probably garner the most attention and make a bigger name for himself and probably make him more money in the long run in free agency because he's out in the media like that. Obviously the cheating had something to do with it, but I think if he joined, I wouldn't be upset if he joined the Yankees, because I think, like we said before, it all ties back to Judge being the captain, everybody looking up to him. I think he would take a back seat in terms of like acting out and all those things. I don't know. I think,
I don't know. The point I was making, I guess, was that 2 years ago we were calling for his head. And then if he is,
I'm not asking for him. I'd rather
the
have
free
Xander
agent.
Bogaerts of the people that are
I'm glad
available on the market, and or just bring up Volpe and have that be a thing. But like,
yeah, no, I'm not
if we're
talking now.
spending
I'm saying
bread
that,
right now, like, why not go get a Xander?
no, I don't think they're going to go get him. And I don't think they should. I'm saying that I'm glad he's not our best option anymore, because if Judge left, he would have been. And that would have sucked, because I still don't like him.
Right.
I can respect that he's a good player. I can respect he's a student of the game. I don't want to root for him.
Right.
At
And
all.
I genuinely believe, I said this before, but I do think the Yankees would have panic bought. I think we would have ended up with Correa, a Nimmo, like a few other random names in that list of names, that plan B that I was talking about before. I think that's what the front office looked at and were like, that we can't sell that to the fans, especially after a season where
that's
they
why the
booed us
Dodgers
and the
aren't coming
players
after
and all those things. It's like we
Did
can't.
you
No,
see
not
that?
not him as a thing. I was like, we can't sell the alternative of not having Judge and your replacement for Judge is just this ragtag group of overpaid players that now they also have the narrative of like, when a player gets paid a lot, fans expect more of you, and they're like, oh, you're paid. My favorite thing in the world is like this much per second to step on the field in on the Yankees uniforms. Like now you have that, and you're also filling the shoes of Aaron Judge, which are fucking huge shoes, figuratively and literally. It's just like it's a tough sell to the fans, and that is evidently, I genuinely believe, why they made this deal is because they were scared of that backlash.
Yeah.
They being Hal and
They'll make their money back tenfold with Aaron Judge over the course of his contract. Everybody,
marketable player
they've
in baseball.
already made their money to pay him based off. Yeah, I mean, they have a fucking
Look at the production
section
you
of
got
the
last year
stadium
for
named
$21
after him.
million.
They have a
You can consider that.
section of Yankee Stadium named after the guy. People show up in fucking wigs and robes for this guy.
And that was day one. That was idea number one, and it worked.
I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, that's
It's
been
a
there for a couple years,
no-brainer.
and he hasn't been up here for that long.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Just like the jersey sales. I mean, the dog days of summer sold out crowd that against the Orioles, like that wouldn't usually be the case, but because he was chasing history, like it's crazy. It's insane. Even when the team was borderline unwatchable, they were still selling out crowds because they wanted to watch Judge. Like people, it's just crazy going to the games, because going to the games and seeing Judge go up, his at-bat finishes, everybody goes to get their refreshments and go do their bathroom breaks just during the inning because they're here for one reason only, and it's because of that man. So I'm very happy to have him back. It sounds like
something to watch
Chandler
here
just,
real quick.
Yeah, it seemed like you
I
had
don't
some
have breaking
news.
news, but our guy Hal to KBO, who's been
I was just going to say this tweet.
In case you guys haven't been following Hal to KBO, follow him on Twitter. He's is just a normal guy like the rest of us, but he flew out to San Diego, is just hanging out, fucking asking all the Yankees reporters and
answering questions.
And he is. He's everybody who has a question. But I'll get to the point. He's been talking to Brian Hoke. He said Brian Cashman and company are flying back to New York, still going to gather as much as I can. But he mentioned Rodon's a perfect fit, and then he followed it up with, this is coming from Brian Hoke, by the way. Said if something were to happen tonight, it would most likely be Rodon.
I'm a little surprised that we're not talking about Rodon in the past tense right now. I'm a little surprised it hasn't happened yet. So hopefully it is tonight, because that is, of all of the possible thing, like we're talking about, there's not another free agent on this board that I think improves our rotation that much.
He fits.
It's Rodon. We need him. He fits.
Well, no. Perfectly. He is the only option at this point,
right? And that's what I'm saying.
Unless you want to
do Senga and Bassett and like, but where would Bassett fit? He's the 5, I think, maybe 4. We don't need a 4 or 5. We have 6, 4, and 5s.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about the remaining options. I mean, Verlander's gone, DeGrom's gone. Kershaw was on the market for like a second. Rodon and Bassett basically, and that's it for the pitchers. I mean,
Manaea,
Kenley Jansen's gone. The only other 2 big pitchers are like Adam Ottavino, David Robertson, which we've been down those 2 roads before, and they're not getting any younger. It's just,
I think Rodon's the perfect fit, man. He throws hard. He succeeds with throwing fastballs up in the zone, which if you're going to succeed at Yankee Stadium as a power pitcher, that's something you have to have a proven track record of doing. I have a little bit of concern with how he ages, and I was listening to Al Leiter break it down on MLB Network today. I trust his opinions a lot when it comes to pitching. He says a very aggressive arm motion. He's very arm dominant. You know, he doesn't generate a lot of power and a lot of speed from his legs, which, you know what, fine. And I think that's why the Yankees are hesitant to go a 6th or 7th year, which is what he's allegedly looking for. I think if you can get Rodon at 5 years, even if it's $30 million a year, I think it's an absolute no-brainer, because he's an absolute, right now, he's a 1B to Cole, and he's coming off a year that's probably maybe even better than Cole's. Like, Rodon is a damn good pitcher. I would say at this point in his career, he's probably a top 5 pitcher in the game.
He's consensus top 10 going into next season. Number 9, I saw.
And he's a dominant lefty. Like he is the lefty counterpart to Cole. I think
Then
I
then
like
we
his
would have
mentality.
Nestor,
Well,
Cole.
yeah,
so
it balances it so
it'd
heavily.
be
I like
very
his
because
balanced.
mentality. I
it's
like his
right,
mound
left,
presence.
right, left, right.
Real quick, I'll say this real quick. His mound presence is something that I think, because the biggest thing when you're talking bringing a pitcher to the Yankees, you look at the Frankie Montas. Maybe it's too early to judge. Maybe it's not.
But we still have him.
Look at Sonny Gray and AJ Burnett and guys like that just don't handle it in New York. I think Rodon has the makeup to handle it. He's a fucking I don't know. He's a psychopath on the mound, which is what you got to have. And I think he fits the bill perfectly. I would love to have him. I think you even overpay. I would go that 6th year. I don't know about 7, but I would give him the extra year, and it's almost a Judge situation at that point. But you know what? Maybe. I mean, look at CC Sabathia. Somebody pointed this out earlier. It's the absolute perfect comparison. CC Sabathia in his last 2 years as a Yankee, he wasn't a dominant starter. He was a fringe bullpen pitcher. He had a nice little resurgence for a little bit. But you know what? You paid for a World Series, a guy that was up in the top of the Cy Young for 3 to 4 years. If you get that out of Rodon, if you get a ring and a top 5 Cy Young finish 2 years in a row, you get your money's worth. I don't mind eating the back end of that. I don't care if he loses efficiency. The injury history kind of concerns me, but if you listen to people break down what has caused those, he's changed his windup a lot from where he started coming out of college to now. I think that takes a lot of pressure, a lot of strain off his arm, which is where all of his injuries are, shoulder, elbow. I think kind of his recreating himself in a sense helps that. I'm comfortable going 5 or 6. I really don't care if the back end isn't good.
Yeah, my
You're
worry.
paying for.
I don't
you're
think
paying
it's
for
going to
an
have
8.
to get to 6.
Yeah,
But
I
either way, I feel like it's starting at 4 and it's going to leak to 5 rather than starting at 5 and leak to 6. If it's 6, I'm still okay with that, to be fair. But
Well, they want 7. That's why.
I don't think nobody's going to give him 7. I mean, but either way, I
In
think
this
that
market, have you
for the
seen
reason
the contract? Taiwan Walker got 80 or shit. Did Taiwan
4
Walker get
year-
100 million?
no 4 years 70 something. I think
76. I mean,
72, something like
Tyone's
that.
getting 20 million a year.
60.
Like,
Yeah, no, I agree,
it's-
but I know,
it's
but
a
the longevity
pitcher-dominant
for that
market.
same concern, they know the AAV is right. What you're saying, he's going to get the AAV, but I don't think he's not going to have to compete with the years. I don't think he's going to get 7. It's interesting that the Giants are trying to bring him back because we're going to have to duke it out with them again. But
that was
for
my
everything that
concern.
you just said, is the reason we brought back Judge is to win now, and Rodon's another win now guy. So if you're gonna, I think if they bring back Rodon, or if they bring in Rodon, it's gonna really tell that the chips are in, that it's now or never, and they're doubling down on the now or never. And you're paying Judge $40 million for 9 years, and he's only going to be worth $40 million for maybe 2 or 3 of those, and that's okay. You knew that going in. By the time he's not worth it, 10 other guys in Major League Baseball are going to be making $40 million too, so it's fine. But it's if they don't, you have to capitalize while Judge is worth what you're paying him.
That's why they're going to continue to go out and get people. I mean, they have $1 billion allocated to 3 players on this team right now. They can't just like that. That's crazy to say. They have $1 billion allocated to Stanton, Cole, and Judge. I mean, that sounds crazy, and you could say stop there, but we're, like Chandler said at the top of this show, we have the same exact team minus Tyone and minus Benintendi as of from last year, and that team didn't do much. So
plus Canely, come on,
plus Canely. So, but like now you're getting it.
Signing.
But Mike King is hurt, so we had Mike King at the beginning of the year, so now we're replacing him with Canely basically until he comes back.
King's back by opening day.
But you know what I mean. So I'm just saying it's at a plus or minus there. But like regardless, they can't sit here, and I don't think we're being spoiled Yankee fans in saying that we want more, because we know this formula. We're happy about Judge being back, but we know this formula isn't good enough. And if you have a rotation with Carlos Rodon, Garrett Cole, Nestor Cortez, whatever Frankie Montas becomes, I'm not completely sold he's going to suck because he was dealing with injuries at the end of last year. But if whatever he can give us as a 4 starter, and I forgot about Severino, so Severino as well, that's a damn good rotation right there. I mean, Montas would be the 5, and it's spearheaded by 4 guys, including Severino, that all could have a chance to win a Cy Young or be at least top 5, top 10 every single year. And that's crazy. That's very, very good for a team. So I think, I mean, why not push all the chips in on Rodon? Because he seems to be that missing piece, because the offense can do it. The offense can get it done. And it's just crazy, man. And then you can probably get a little couple ancillary pieces. Like,
here's the thing with Rodon. And I'm going to stop you on the ancillary pieces, because if you get Rodon, you blow past that last luxury tax threshold. At that point, what motivation do you have to stay under it? Go fucking do it. And you got, say you don't get rid of Donaldson and stuff. You've got 30, 40. I mean, you got Severino coming off the books. You got Donaldson coming off the books. You have a lot of money coming off the books in 2023 if you're worried about money. But if you sign Rodon, you're already blowing past the threshold. Go for the fucking jugular. Like, you're literally at that point, it's irresponsible not to, because now you're just throwing away money for nothing. Go get a left fielder and don't cheap out. Go maybe add another bullpen arm.
Yeah, my only concern is that we did just beat the Giants in a bidding war for Judge. They still have that $360 million, $375 million, whatever they offered him, ready to deploy to somebody. And I feel like, we were talking about the Yankees were going to panic buy somebody. What?
It's going to Correa.
Well, I mean, that they can get both. Like, that my point is they had money to spend. And honestly, we were talking about this before it was official. Like, the Giants probably told Judge, I mean, they already brought in Mitch Haniger. They probably told him, like, you're not the only move we're going to make, because if it is, then he's joining a team to not win. Now it's like we have a plan. I know the GM is like Farham Zaidi, and like I'm sure he told Judge in those meetings, like, hey, we're not going to just stop there. We're going to make other moves. We're going to make this championship team this year. You're going to make the playoffs. You're going to make a lot of money doing it, but you're going to make the playoffs this team right now. So I have a feeling like they had a lot more money to spend beyond Judge, and I think that wouldn't shock me to see them get him back, or get him and a Correa, or him and a Bogarts, and just.
Well, they're in on a shortstop now too. Yeah.
I that is my concern. It all makes sense, is what I'm saying. It all makes sense. It would be the move to make of all the remaining moves.
Priority number one.
It seems like we're dealing with less resources, all things considered, because we have $1 billion now, all on 3 people.
Well, so yeah, but I think Rodon, you're not even above the threshold yet. So Rodon, we already talked about that, but I think that's priority number one. After that, obviously, you still need to make some sort of a move to bring in an outfielder, whether that's Benintendi, whether that's Nimmo. The people are talking about Conforto. I don't love that, but it's somebody.
Conforto.
He didn't play last year.
Yeah.
It's a mega low risk, high reward. He wants a 2-year deal with an opt out.
Listen, if they can get him for pennies, fine. But if they can get him for pennies, fine. But I don't think he's really that viable, because we have Cabrera. How much better is he going to be than Cabrera? Like,
it just depends. I think the blueprint to the perfect offseason at this point is find some sort of way to get out of Donaldson and Hicks's contracts, which I don't know that's even feasible. I think they'll get one, not the other, not both. I think you go get a left fielder. Maybe it's Benintendi. They're not going to get Nimmo, although somebody.
Astros are also talking to Benintendi. That's interesting.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I think the Yankees are all in on Benintendi. I don't know that Benintendi loved being a Yankee. Reports. So I think if Benintendi wanted to be a Yankee, it'd be done already.
I agree.
But I mean, there's left fielder options out there, and if not, you've got Cabrera. Bring up one of the shortstop. I think you bring up Peraza, or you trade him for a Brian Reynolds, which I don't think is off the table. So
that's the other thing we could.
And then I think you put Cabrera there as a stopgap until Volpe's ready, which I think he'll be ready before or around the All-Star break. And then Cabrera becomes your super utility guy, who's still almost like DJ was when he first signed. He's still playing 130 games. That is the perfect ideal blueprint. I don't know that it happens that way. I would love to see Reynolds in left field, and I love Peraza, but I think if you send Peraza off to the Pirates and you bring in Reynolds, you're helping this team win now in an area of depth, and that's fine.
So the thing is with Reynolds is that his contract is so favorable that it might take another top 5 guy with
Oh, it
Peraza to
will.
get him.
It's
But
gonna
they
take
wouldn't put
Peraza
Volpe
and
and Peraza together, of
Dominguez.
course. But
It'll
yeah,
take
like, are we
Peraza,
really going to
Dominguez,
give
and
up
a pitching
Peraza and
guy.
Dominguez for 2 years of Reynolds?
I mean,
I like
also,
Reynolds. I do. I think he
I'm
fits
not
really well.
sold
I
on
feel like that's
Dominguez.
too much.
That's
Me
mainly
neither, but
that's
yeah,
I'm not sold on Dominguez. That's where I'm at with it. And Peraza, I'm not sold on him being. He's good and he's going to be good and he might make a couple All-Star games. He's not Volpe. I mean, Volpe is. That's another point I want to make with Judge. If you let Volpe or if you let Judge walk, you've already put this Hall of Fame expectation on Volpe by letting Correa, Turner, Seager, all these guys pass by. You've already put basically a perennial All-Star MVP caliber player or bust. Let Judge walk too. And now you've got Volpe who has to fill those shoes of the homegrown next Derek Jeter. It's not fair to put on a 21-year-old kid. So that is a point I meant to make earlier. But I think Volpe, he is that guy. He really is. If he can handle the pressure of it, the talent's there.
It's a big if.
I'm okay trading away Peraza because
listen,
you've got Oswaldo Cabrera there as well, who is a natural shortstop. He plays a damn good shortstop. So,
well, that's the one position that he's not going to play.
Is what I'm getting
is the
at.
funny thing. Like, yes, there are options. I agree. But here's where it also gets interesting: is that if they don't get Rodon, I don't think any of the other starting pitching free agents that are left are worth signing.
No.
So then I still think that bringing in a 2, if you bring in a 2 that's Rodon, whether it's he or somebody of that caliber, that makes the Yankees, if not the deepest rotation in baseball, the best. They might be the best rotation in baseball. If you're looking at Cole, Rodon, or somebody similar, Sevy, Nestor, Montas. If Montas becomes who he was, I think he was pitching hurt last year. So if he's fully healthy next year, I really do think he'll be some version of what he was in the first half. And if he's your 5, I guess I'm the king of if you told me however long ago that whatever. But if you told me in July that Montas is going to be your 5 next year, you'd be ecstatic about it.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, he's supposed to be the 2 when he came over at the deadline. So
I don't know really
what
pitchers fit into that are available for a trade, but
I just saw. I know we talked about the $1 billion that's allocated to 3 players. I just saw a post. I'm not sure if you guys saw it, but the total franchise value of the Marlins is $990 million.
Well, that's funny because they were the ones that signed Stanton to that contract. It's worth.
To be fair, that's a way different scenario. I think, as sad as it is, I think Jose Fernandez passing away changed the entire trajectory of that franchise.
Yeah,
that caused a rebuild. It did, and that's
They had Yelich, Stanton, and Ozuna in the same outfield.
They had Jose Fernandez. They had D. Gordon when he was a perennial All-Star. That team.
They had.
But I love the way that they're operating, and I really think that
Real Muto, or am I making that up? Sorry.
No, they had Real Muto. I think they're a person that you can look to as a possible trade partner for the Yankees as well. Because I think once Cashman's done with his signings and he's done loading up on everybody he can on the free agent market, I think he's going to look to shed guys like, I think Gleyber Torres is more likely, I would say 50-50, if not higher, to be traded. I think Donaldson's in that category. I think Hicks is in that category. There's a lot of guys that could be traded, and I think that the Marlins fit that bill. And I think that they have a lot of interest in some of our guys, including Gleyber.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Sorry. That was the reason I mentioned.
Even if it's not Lopez. But
that was the reason I actually mentioned trading for a pitcher. Lopez popped into my mind because I knew that was something they were interested in. So if we can kind of maybe put Gleyber and a prospect in there and then try to toss in Hicks or Donaldson and have them meet some of the contract.
Yankees fans, tender your expectations. We're getting nothing at all from those people. If they're trying to trade them, like, not a thing. I think you're muted.
I am muted. Sorry. I love the trade predictions that are like Florial, Hicks, Donaldson, and somebody else for like Pablo Lopez. Like, you get 2 immediate major league starters, and like, guys, come on. If you trade Donaldson and Hicks, we're getting maybe and
cash.
Not even cash. You might get like a 2008 dated like radar gun.
Yeah, or like I always say, vending machine credit. Just
I don't even think he's worth vending machine credit.
yeah,
either of them.
Yeah,
I wish they would just retire.
Yeah, I think that's the game plan. Is if you can't get Rodon, go for a trade partner to find a pitcher. It's not really. I mean, I don't really like Bassett that much, but I mean, I wouldn't be upset to add him to the rotation for depth. But we are a man down. 2 if you count the beginning of the season with Montgomery leaving and Tyone both now leaving. I know we added Montas, but we don't know what he's going to be. So as it sits today, we do need a pitcher. So that's why I wouldn't be shocked if we got one. I can't see us getting or bidding more than other people for the shortstops, and we have too many prospects coming up. So honestly, I'd be kind of upset if we spent our remaining resources on a shortstop when we can call up Volpe this year. We can have Peraza play shortstop this year. I mean, that all of those options are not bad ones in my eyes. So I don't know. I think
what do you think of our rotation right now, real quick? Our rotation is Cole, Nestor, Sebi, flip flop those however you want, Montas, and then either Clark Schmidt or Orban.
I think I think right now
good.
It's one of the best rotations in baseball. I just don't think, as we know, I don't think it's enough to get it done. I think Rodon puts it over the top, and I think that's when you stack up now. The way to look at it is
a top 3 rotation.
Yeah, I think potentially the best rotation in baseball. It depends how it shakes out in free agency the rest of the way, but like the way to look at it, as you all know, is to stack up against one-on-one. Can you win a World Series against this or a series against those teams if you match up the starters? And I think they can go hand in hand with like the Mets rotation. Like, it depends on who their third is, but like they now have Verlander and Scherzer. Like, those are 2 great pitchers. They're both very fucking old, so I wouldn't be shocked if they started to tail off a little bit. But I mean, our rotation is up there, and Rodon would definitely make it a conversation to be the best rotation in baseball through and through. So, with the high upside that Montas can be even an average pitcher.
Get a contact first bat. Rodon, a contact first bat, preferably a left fielding one, and bring up a shortstop. That's the blueprint. That is.
Do you think there's a chance to get Benintendi and Rodon?
The most realistic scenario, I think, would be Benintendi.
Because I liked Benintendi a lot. I thought he was a good ad. He was awesome before he got hurt. He plays good defense. Our outfield would be sweet. It would be Benintendi, Bader, and Judge, and that's. I mean, you want to talk about just the Gold Glovers? Like, that's awesome. That is so unbelievably awesome. It's lefty bat. I mean, just it's. I would get the shorts moving for sure for next season. If you completed this offseason with Rodon and Benintendi, I'm a happy camper. We're winning the World Series.
I don't think
I hate to rain in on your parade a little bit, but Buster Olney was on the Michael K show earlier today and said that Rodon, quote unquote, Rodon wants 6 years. Think that prices out the Yankees, Mets, maybe the Cubs and Red Sox, maybe the Padres.
Jack Curry, who's got an ear in the front office. Well, Jack Curry said that the Yankees were like the favorites. So
I've been trusting Jack Curry a lot more than any other of these sources.
Absolutely.
Like, unrelated, I feel like he's dipping his toe into the just MLB news breaking. Like, is he going to be? Are we watching like the character arc of Jack Curry, and he's becoming like the next Jeff Passan?
I love Jack Curry. For Yankees news, he is.
Absolutely.
Some serious character development. He went from being that guy in the pregame show who gave out a song every time to Jeff Passan's cousin real quick.
I don't know. Yeah. I would say I'm 50 on Rodon right now. If you don't, I think you have to.
50-50
I think
on him coming, or 50-50 on you wanting him.
I think at this point I'm disappointed.
I'm 120% on wanting him. I would give my soul for Rodon. I'd say 50-50. I think Rodon he's vastly underrated. I mean, remember, this is a guy that was the number 3 overall pick, I think, out of NC State. He made his debut before even a full year in the minors. I think he got drafted in June and called up in September. Like, The dude is an absolute animal. He's reinvented he reinvented his entire throwing motion. He's a damn good pitcher. He throws 99.
I know.
He is a perfect fit. If not
Strikes
him,
out a ton of people.
he is the most surefire, perfect pitcher to add to the Yankees since Garrett Cole in any of the last 3 free agent classes. I think if you can get him for 6 years at $30 million apiece, I think it's a no-brainer.
I
think it's an absolute no-brainer.
That's a lot of money, though. I just don't think we're going to have enough money to outbid the Giants
I can already picture that
in their
in
state
my
of desperation.
verbal meme here is the like Pornhub like template of like New York Yankees cuck the like West Coast or like New York handsome rich New York guy like cucks West Coast person. And it's just the Yankees taking everybody from the Giants.
Yeah, taking Rodon and Judge both.
And Judge.
Or I could see. This is the sign the episode should end soon. But the meme that, that we're describing memes and how they will be like if we do get Rodon and Judge, obviously that meme of the person like the cartoon character grabbing the ball and then somebody else like pulling them away and behind them. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
The listeners do. They'll see it when it comes true. I'll post it. Anywho, that's the end of this show. I think under the radar, we didn't talk much about Canley, but it's very, very pumped about that. I'm very happy about that signing. I did see a fun stat that obviously he didn't pitch the whole year last year. He was injured, but he still got the changeup. He threw it 487 less times than Devin Williams, and he had nearly the same run value on that pitch. So Devin Williams is a nasty changeup. So I think that's promising to see. I think it's actually also really funny that it seems as though we just sent Canley to the Dodgers to do a rehab stint, and now he's back with the Yankees. So
I love Canley, man.
Tip the
I
cap.
think he's a great,
Tip the cap.
very
to
low
Cashman
risk,
for
high
that.
reward. I will never forget the game I went to the ALCS against the Astros in 2019. It was like 30 degrees out, windy as shit. It was so cold, and Canley just reached into a bucket of like a cooler, just pulled out an ice water and dumped it all over his fucking face before he went out there. It was like, this dude's an absolute psychopath. I love Tommy Canley.
He's literally addicted to Red Bulls or Monsters for a whole long time, relapsed, and now he's
Dude,
back.
You see, I was
he's
drinking
okay.
like a 12-pack of Red Bulls a day.
That's crazy. I mean, you want to talk? We haven't talked about this. This is a good way to end the episode. The locker room now, with the addition of Canley, bringing back Rizzo, and Judge full time. It's just like, obviously, you still have Nestor, you still have all these guys. The locker room is about to be something special. So I hope Rodon isn't a cancer in the locker room. All right.
I think Rodon and Cole would be the perfect 1-2 in that locker room.
That'd be fun. That'd be fun. All right. Catch you guys later. Hope we get some breaking news soon. Bye.